Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Negler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on the Cheesehead TV social channels. It is Friday, and a Friday prior to a weekend without Packers football. Man, I don't love it. I don't love it, but obviously a bye week is always welcome when the team is banged up, which it most certainly is. Hopefully get a bunch of guys healthy, ready for a stretch run of 13 straight games without a real reprieve. Obviously, you have the bit of a mini bye after the Thanksgiving game, but 13 games in a row is going to be a grueling stretch for a team that started out so hot those first couple of games and then clearly had a bunch of teachable moments over the course of the next 2 weeks. I love the ability here to reset, refocus, and get ready for what will be a gauntlet. No question about it. Now, there's nothing to say that the Packers are going to come out firing like they did those first two games, and there's nothing that indicates that they will have the same issues that they had in the loss in Cleveland and the tie in Dallas. But certainly getting back to Lambeau Field and facing a beat-up Bengals team should help get it off on the right foot. Don't want to look past that, obviously. Got to go 1-0. But there's little doubt that some lessons can be learned from the first 4 games of the year. A nice, like I said, kind of moment to reset, refocus. And as LaFleur indicated at his press conference, get ready for a tough 13-game stretch. That said, man, this weekend I'm going to be able to kind of breathe, relax, take in the Brewers game tomorrow, although that probably won't be relaxing. But it's good to have a weekend where you're not really stressing about the Packers for a change. And I intend to take full advantage of that. And I hope you guys do too. Sorry for my absence yesterday. I was not feeling well and I'm still not feeling great. So this session will probably go a little shorter than normal just because there's not a ton of news, not a ton of hot button topics to talk about other than maybe, oh, look at the Rams going for it on 4th down and not getting it because of a play call. Tons of stuff to talk about there if you'd like. But no doubt about it, very anxious to see the Packers get back on the practice field on Monday, which they will be back on the practice field there in Green Bay on Monday morning. But there is no coach availability, so we won't get a direct kind of update on Devontae Wyatt, some of these injured guys. Christian Watson hopefully will be on the practice field. That's another thing we can kind of glean from Monday's sessions. But there is locker room availability on Monday after practice. So hopefully the beat will be able to talk to some of these guys and get a decent idea of where things stand as far as who's going to be available and who might still be out, especially along the offensive line, such as it stands. That said, I'm going to get to your questions and your comments. Before I do, you guys know, got to give a shout out to our friends over at ThedaCare. ThedaCare is a proud sponsor of Cheesehead TV with 115 years of trusted care. They keep athletes and fans game day ready because winning starts with wellness.
Expertise follows inspiration. That's why more than a dozen of the nation's top cardiovascular specialists have chosen ThedaCare as their destination to deliver exceptional care. By infusing local care with new expertise throughout ThedaCare, we're creating a healthier future for all. Meet the experts at thedacare.org/heart.
All right, let's get to your questions, comments, whatever's on your mind, folks. What it do, Ryan Willie, starting us off with a super chat. How you doing, man? Has Matt LaFleur turned into stale bread? What happened to all gas, no bleeping brakes? In my opinion, he lets off the gas a lot. He doesn't have Campbell's mindset. True. And he and Campbell have won exactly the same amount of championships. So I don't know that Campbell is this great paradigm of what he should aspire to. It's a different approach, no question about it. But it also cost Campbell in an NFC championship game on the doorstep of the Super Bowl. You know, this is interesting because this is what my whole feed was last night, watching the 49ers and Rams go, Thursday Night Football. And they got 2 of the buddies in the buddy system, including LaFleur and all these Shanahan tree guys. And, the moment the 49ers came out and looked good, they look polished, they look slick, they look ready to go. Oh, why can't LaFleur have them like that? Oh, LaFleur should do this. Man, can't you appreciate the coach you got instead of like pining for some other coach? I know it's really impossible in this day and age, but comparison is a thief of joy, sir. Campbell, what the fuck has Dan Campbell won? Please, that you're pining for his approach as opposed to what LaFleur does. And to your point, and to your initial part of your question, he has certainly gotten more conservative. There's no doubt about that. All you got to do is look at, just the metrics from 2020 alone will tell you how he used to be much more amiable to taking a few more risks, calculated risks, as it were. But yeah, then they traded their 4-time MVP, all-world, future Hall of Fame quarterback. They got rid of a ton of veterans, and they stripped it all down and went uber young, insane young, youngest team in the NFL 3 years running. And I know I've heard what Brian said. They have played a lot of ball at this point, right? It's not an excuse. It's a reality. So yes, partly because of that, but also partly because of some context and situational stuff, he hasn't been pressing that button nearly as much. Now, this is what I'm talking about when I say maybe those first 4 games, you take this pause and you say, you know what? It's time to get back to doing some of that. It's time to start, sticking it, when it's 4th and 2 and not worrying so much about what the other team might do and going and picking up those 2 yards, trusting Jordan Love in that situation, because clearly he did trust Aaron Rodgers, who at that point was a grizzled veteran. It's just there's reasons there that I understand. There's some frustrations there, certainly on the fans' part, that I definitely understand. I feel it every time they line up and do the stupid no one moves. Some guy hops. No one moves. Take the penalty, punt away. If I see that one more time, I'm going to run into traffic, I get it. It's frustrating as hell. But just because he takes that approach and Dan Campbell does something else doesn't mean that he's stale bread, to use your vernacular there. Hopefully this first 4 weeks has, shown him that he can trust Jordan and he knows that they can push it a little bit in those scenarios. We'll see. We'll see as the season progresses. Joe, what's up, man? Thanks for the super chat. As season wears on, we'll say Dallas game exposed Packers' weaknesses in pass defense, or Packers just ran into a really good QB having a great night. I suspect much of it will be the latter, though I don't doubt for a moment that the guys that we saw struggle down there in Dallas as far as coverage and in man situations will be tested and are going to get beat sometimes, because that's just the nature of the NFL and the game itself, especially the way it's set up. But it will take a quarterback who is able to be not only as patient as Dak was with the continual use of, real quick game stuff, check downs at times, and knowing where to go with the ball and adjusting at the line of scrimmage and finding out what the protection should be and where the threat is from the rush, and then resetting things at the line so he knows where his hot can be the opposite side to get away from the rush, etc. This is all next level stuff that Dak did in that game that probably doesn't show up on a stat sheet, but is a big component as to why they were able to be successful against the Packers defense. Not going to get that each and every week. Now, that said, certainly going to face good quarterbacks, going to face really talented, really good offenses, and they have to perform better. And Jeff Hafley has to be better in those scenarios. But I don't think there's some magic, they exposed the Packers and this is the blueprint, which I know is always a popular phrase. You got to have a bunch of ingredients and a perfect storm, essentially, on the offensive side for a Packers opponent to do exactly what Dallas did. And not every team, most teams aren't going to have it. But we'll see. We will see how things align here in the back half of or post bye-week football. James, what's up? Nice to not have to talk about wide receiver drops. James, why are you trying to jinx it, buddy? I'm kidding. No, you're right. It is very nice. And for the most part, they have been very good. But when they have a couple drops next Sunday against the Bengals, I am 1 billion% blaming you. We don't talk about Fight Club. Fight Club in this instance is wide receivers dropping passes. We don't talk about it. Mimsy, what's up? I am 100% sending this to my daughters. Taylor hasn't had a good album since Kansas City lost in Green Bay. You're onto something there, Mimsy. Yeah, the Poets one was boring as hell, and this one that came out last night, boring times 2. Milk Toast City. I think you've cracked the code there, Mimsy. You're spot on, man. Ever since she watched Travis and the Chiefs get beat at Lambeau Field, it's been a snooze fest from Taylor. And I'm a Taylor. I like Taylor Swift. I think she's made some really amazing music. But Neil Tennant was right, I'm afraid. Where are the hits? She's sleepwalking through, the back half of her career, making these yawn-inducing albums, just raking in millions. Godspeed, man. It's good work if you can get it. No doubt about it. Grant, thanks for the super chat, man. Love Gruden ranting on BS about guys don't practice, don't play preseason, and soft CBA. And surprise, surprise, guys get hurt. September football is the new August. Yeah, he is certainly onto something there. That is not the ravings of a madman. I know anybody who's involved on the football side in the league, right, is mostly in agreement with all of that. Right? They don't practice. There aren't opportunities to get better because you aren't allowed to practice. And certainly you're only allowed to wear pads 14 times through the season, the whole season in practices. And then you add all the limitations in the off season, all the ways you're not allowed to get on the grass and hit and put your pads on for much of the off season work. It's why things are just the level of play, the quality of football that we watch now is so bad. And look, the NFL doesn't give a shit. The NFL completely disregards anything and everything that actually would help develop the game as it's supposed to be played, right? Especially when it comes to the work an offensive line needs, right? Because, they're good. People are watching anyway. It's always the highest rated thing. Remember, you used to have NFL Europe, and you actually were able to have a bit of a pipeline for guys who weren't ready but needed to work and needed reps, and then they did it, and they went over there, and they actually played football. It lost money hand over fist, but you were given an opportunity to work on your craft, right? And this is in conjunction with when NFL teams were able to actually practice in pads for more than like a handful of days in the summer. It's unfortunate, man, because obviously there's a whole generation now that has come up with football as it is, as we watch it, as it currently exists. And it's bad, but for lack of a better term, they don't know any better, right? But man, the way, especially along the offensive line play is what has really suffered the most under the new collective bargaining agreement. And I used to talk to David Bakhtiari about this all the time. The pipeline from college to the pros is tough enough. And then you get guys who have just basically run air raid shit in college, and then they get to the NFL and they have to learn how to get into a 3-point stance, just out of the gate, let alone how to do half of the stuff they're being asked to do at the league level on a repetitive basis without pads on. Then you get a couple of days of pads, and then the season starts and you're allowed 14 days in pads for the entire year. It's nuts, man. It's absolutely nuts. But like I said, they're making money hand over fist. These guys got their yachts with IMAX theaters in them. And there's a reason the coaches who do go to the owners' meetings, there's a reason they're summarily dismissed and asked to go play golf while these things are voted on. It's really sad because the players' union and the league, they're the ones who agreed to this lack of practice, lack of prep, lack of pads, etc. The coaches are the only ones who don't have a voice in that process. They don't have a union. It's the players' union and the owners. They're having that conversation. The coaches are over here going, could we get a little practice time? Could we have a little bit of ability to work with our guys in the offseason? Could we get in pads and do some hitting, etc.? Nope. They're not part of the conversation. Sad reality, man. And like I said, Gruden's spot on that shit. Nicholas, what's up? Brian Balaga, and I cannot stress this enough, Iowa. Well played, sir. Well played. Sons of Lombardi, what's up, man? The Bears and Leinenkugels still suck. Now. Legacy Ale may suck, but look, I still enjoy a Leinenkugels Oktoberfest. And they had a red that I really liked back in the day. Though I don't know, maybe that Legacy is the red now. I don't know. But yeah, friends don't let friends drink Legacy Ale. Let's put it that way. Ed, what's going on, man? I'm still at win 10 and beat the fucking Bears. I feel like that's a healthy attitude. You didn't say, you You didn't say, "Oh, just beat the Bears twice a year and I'm happy," because that's where we were at in the 80s. You know, you don't ever want to go back there. Don't ever want to see that again. Win 10 and beat the Bears, that's fine, because 10 should get you into the postseason, right? That should be at least the bare minimum expectation. Absolutely. Oz, how you doing, man? Always so good to see you. Sorry we haven't got a collared shirt for you yet in the Cheesehead TV store. Working on it, as always. Oz just has one question. COVID? Which I suspect is in regards to the practice limitations. All of this was in place well before things shut down because of the pandemic. This has been happening for now, I want to say about 10 years, maybe a little less. They redid things certainly during the pandemic. They updated the CBA. They did things like expanded the game day rosters by 2. They really, one of the really good things that did come out of all the stuff they had to kind of renegotiate during the pandemic was the practice squad. You know, I wish they would be able to go back and expand the practice squad even more. But as it is right now, is exponentially better than it was, say, 10 years ago. With the ability to have, you know, vets and tons of different types of guys on your practice squad, and your ability to bring them up on game day. The expansion of the roster itself, I think is what, 16 now. You know, it used to be 8, then it was 10, now it's 16. That's a very good thing. That is a positive development, no question about it. But all of those, like I said, all those, the practice restrictions and the shrinking of the off-season workouts and all the limitations when it comes to padded work, that all happened way before the COVID shutdown. Way, way, way before. Tralev, what a pull. The movie Replacements. Do you know how much insurance is on my Ferrari? And there's 10% to my lawyer, 30% to baby mama, etc. I adore that film. Everybody in it is pitch perfect. Everyone, every performance from Keanu to Gene Hackman, everybody. Such a really good movie. So much fun. No doubt about it. Mick Knight, are injuries dictating the next draft class? Not yet. It's way too early in the season. Way, way too early. And some of it's going to, be determined by who's available in the draft. We were so early as far as who's declaring and who might be, at a position where the Packers might seemingly have a need. But this is the other part, man. Don't forget, every offseason we produce all this draft content. We have all these draft conversations. Oh, they obviously need a corner, right? They obviously need an edge rusher. So the Packers take a wide receiver and an offensive tackle with their first 2 picks. You know what I mean? Like, the outside perception of, quote, need is seemingly always very different than what the Packers are looking at. So I hear what you're saying, but it just feels so early as far as, okay, maybe they're down a number of guys positionally, right, because of injury, but maybe that allows someone to come to the fore and become a real good player. And all of a sudden in September, you think, oh, we need XYZ, but then by December, you've got a couple guys playing way better than you expected. I mean, I'm not saying that's automatically going to happen, but it certainly could, right? What do we got here? New Glarus Oktoberfest better than Liney's. I 1,000,000,000% agree with that. Dude, I've never had a bad beer from New Glarus. There are certainly beers that I enjoy more than others. Never had a bad one. Tours to boot. Got this question a lot. I know it's, people are very curious. Any update on Christian Watson? When can he return? All signs are pointing to his being on the practice field on Monday when they return. If and when that happens, the team has 21 days to activate him to the roster, the 53-man roster. I suspect, and it would be great if he was out there against the Bengals, but I suspect they'll wait. They'll have him practice, but they have 3 weeks to keep, him essentially as a roster bonus without having, he won't be able to play, but he can practice for 3 weeks to make sure that knee is sound, make sure it's right. And then once they do activate him, they have to make a roster move. Although I can't remember right now, they may have one opening available. I know they made a couple of moves. I know they just released Brant Banks, etc. But yeah, the Watson thing will be interesting to watch, and it's going to be, I would suspect, the number 1 kind of headline coming out of Monday, because whether he's able to go against the Bengals or it takes a couple weeks to get him out there, the fact we're even talking about this early October or mid-October for a guy who suffered an ACL injury week 17 of last year, man, that's nuts. It's a testament to his hard work and his genes, but yeah, it's crazy. I thought for sure we'd be waiting until December to see him again, but man, it's exciting. It's exciting, the prospect of getting him back out there. So all that to say, stay tuned on Monday. And if he's out there, they got 3 weeks to activate him. What else we got? Michael, thanks for the super chat. Before you were hosting watch parties, what was your preferred way to watch Packers games? Michael, can I? Okay. It's Friday. No one's watching, so I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Alone, standing up in my big television room all by myself. So I could pace and rant and rave and drink and not have to worry about anyone else asking me questions or, bugging me to do something or anything. Like, I just want to be alone. I like watching that way. But obviously, more often than not, that's not going to happen again in my life. But yeah, I remember most of the kind of 90s into the 2000s, a lot of the more kind of the big important games I watched by myself, especially in 96. Like most of the primetime games that year I watched by myself until they got to the playoffs. And then I would watch with Corey and a few friends down in Carolina. But I don't know, there's something about it that I just like not having to worry about anything else other than the game. And there's no pressure to be sociable. You don't have to worry about like what other people are thinking or feeling. It's just me and the game. It's probably not a very fun answer, but it's the truth. What else we got here, folks? What else we got? Oh, yeah, man. Stralev, I hear you. We listen to Packers radio, and if Packers is on TV, I have it on mute and going with the radio. Texas, we miss a few. I mean, that's how my dad and I used to, watch any Packers game when I was growing up. It was always Jim and Max on the radio, synced up with the TV as well as we could. I absolutely love that. That's how I feel too. Good. I'm glad I'm not alone. I love we have so many people chiming in about their beer preferences. I love it. Absolutely love it. Richard, how you doing, man? Could you see a scenario where Rich Bisaccia remains as assistant head coach but gives up the special teams coordinator role this offseason? It's unlikely. Yes. Do I think it's a possibility? Sure. My suspicion is, though, that there will be a mutual parting of ways this offseason, if I had to guess. I don't think Rich... No, that's not... Okay, that's not fair. I suspect that Rich was seriously contemplating either taking a year off or retiring this last offseason. And I feel like Matt is probably the one who convinced him to come back, right? There's a lot of ball left. Who knows what they're doing down the end, down the stretch run into the playoffs, hopefully a deep run, etc. Some of it may depend on how he feels about it at the end of the year, right? But I tend to think this is probably, my guess is probably his last year. Just a guess. And I know they extended him by a year, but that was so he wasn't a lame duck, right? But yeah, that's again, total guesswork. I haven't talked to anybody about anything, but that would be my guess. So could I see him staying on as assistant head coach? Maybe, again, if LaFleur feels it's valuable and wants to keep him around and convinces him to do so. And then they go either hire someone to be in charge of special teams or elevate one of the assistants. That's a possibility. No doubt about it. Jerry, I really appreciate you. I like watching alone with your watch party next to the TV. Appreciate you, Jerry. Always good to hear from you. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to get going. Cannot thank you enough. Hanging out, talking Packers each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Please do me a monster favor and hit like on the video. Subscribe to the channel, and then tell your friends and tell your family. Cheesehead TV, we are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. And before I head out, I want to give you guys a reminder that tomorrow is Crafttoberfest in Green Bay. Corey Banky will be there behind the taps, pouring out some Carry the G and a couple other goodies from Gathering Place Brewing, our partner with Carry the G. He's there from 3 to 6. It's open to the public from 3 to 6. You do need tickets. Just go to the Resh Expo website. Check it out. Corey Banke, Carry the G, tomorrow at the Resh Center. It's going to be a lot of fun. Head on out if you're in the area. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Go Brewers and go Pack Go.